Welcome into an all-new episode of Panthers on Tap. I'm Curtis Round, joined by Ricky Rains. Bryson has the night off. We're coming to you guys on a very, I would say, depressing Wednesday. I have a major headache, and it's fitting because that's what the Panthers caused all of us this past weekend. So we got a lot to talk about and a lot of ways for improvement over this next couple days here before they head on the road again into Arizona against the Cardinals. But Ricky, how you doing tonight?
I'm okay, man. Um, you talk about you're depressed, like this is all bad news. It is. It's not good. This isn't the way that we wanted to start the season. But we're gonna get into it today, right? We're gonna talk about this. There are things to take from that game that you can say, hey, it's not all doom and gloom. And then there's a lot of stuff that I'm really pissed off and frustrated about. And I want to talk about that because one of my favorite things, Curtis, about this show that we try to do, we try to be pretty authentic to what we feel like as fans, right? The analytical stuff is cool, man. Try to break down the game, break down film, talk about, schematic strengths and weaknesses. It's all fun. But what I love about this show, we're fans, and I'm ready to kind of vent a little bit. I've had all this shit creeping up in my head, man, since Sunday, right? Like just toying around with all the stuff that I want to say about this football team. And I think tonight is the night that I should just say it and get it out in the open, hear my voice say it, get it off of my chest, and maybe I won't have to think it anymore. So, yeah, we're going to do a lot of cool stuff today. And I'm
I'm
drinking my
excited.
beer out of like a beer or a beach koozie so that I can try to convince myself that I'm happy and not completely miserable with the state of my football team.
I love it. So you got the banquet beer.
I
Anything
do
else
have one other
special?
beer too. It's like a smoked wheat ale. And I got that because the Carolina Panthers got smoked this weekend. So I thought that was appropriate.
Yeah, I think you had this last week. I am drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, and I have a koozie as well. When I went to the Brewers game, they honored Mr. Baseball, and they had these
Love that.
sick ass koozies. So I'm honoring Euchre as well tonight.
That's great.
Um, but man, where do we start with this one, Ricky?
Um, there's so much. There's so much. Let's hold on. I have an idea. Let's go to the chat first because the chat's been very active. I want to see what they're saying. I think at the beginning of it, it's a lot of fun talk that's happening here. Um, First of all, shout out my favorite viewer. I'm sorry for everyone else. I do have a bias here. Um, my mom, 16-1 works for me. We will celebrate a win this weekend. Keep pounding. Love that positivity, Ma. Keep it going. I hope you're caring enough for the entire family because you're about to see your son act a little bit differently. Um, what do we got here? I'll keep pulling them up. Unless you want to pull them up, you're probably quicker with this than I am. I'm on the
Yeah,
laptop
so we
tonight.
got Nervash here. Something is definitely very wrong. If we get beat badly by the Cardinals, we
Mm,
usually beat them even in bad seasons. Yeah, we'll
yeah.
talk about that.
Yep.
Um, your mom's drinking Oktoberfest. I wanted to run
Nice.
somewhere tonight. I was running behind, but that was probably my drink of choice if I would have gotten something. Sierra Nevada's Atomic Torpedo IPA
There you go.
coming in hot, 9.2%. Appreciate you,
Appreciate
Stephen
you,
Belt.
Steven.
Carter, as always, let's go Panthers on tap. MBJ crash out incoming. Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's
sure
coming.
is. Jay, it's coming, dude. Crash out is coming.
What's up, fellas? Appreciate you
What
as
up, love?
always. Anthony Gibson, I'm just mad. Yeah, ain't we all? I think we
Man,
all feel that.
with you, Anthony.
Man, you aren't kidding. This chat is blowing up.
Oh, it's live tonight,
When the
dude.
Panthers suck, it gets lively.
Well, no, because
Uh,
I think everyone wants to do this, man. Everyone wants to make sure that they don't feel completely certifiably insane about what they watched on Sunday. But also, I think that maybe we're all looking for a little therapy session so that we could get through this week and start looking forward to Sunday, which, hey, guys, which before we get into this, we do have our segment of Statistically Speaking coming back up. So we will talk about the Cardinals game. We'll talk a little bit about the stats from the Jaguars game. We've got some good stuff coming, but first let's get into the gripes and finish up with the chat.
yeah, Keaton Bullock, number 21 for president. Yeah, he'll be
Get out
hard.
of here. Keaton, man. No, don't say that shit here. This is a family show. We can curse all we want, but you don't say filthy shit like
C3
that.
Anthony, hey boys, got a lot to say. Very
What up,
frustrated.
man?
Um, yeah, I think I covered most people. Oh, Jared's in here. Hold on here. This chat is I'm just tired, man. Yeah, I hear you. Well, I think we will get into all this, guys. I trust.
What Anthony asked here, this may be a good place for us to start a little bit, like a segment
Yeah,
or
I
something.
agree. I think that's a good spot to start.
Give me yours first, Curtis.
Oh, I was just
Yeah,
about
no,
to
no,
pick
I
with
want you to
you.
go first, man, because I think that I'm gonna have we're gonna intertwine a bunch of conversation. I
Yeah.
think starting with this, right?
Mhm.
So shoot off the hip here. Let's talk about it though, because Bryce Young is the major conversation piece after that
Yeah.
game. And first, Curtis, I want to ask you: do you think that's fair that Bryce Young is the major conversation piece, the first thing being talked about? And the second question I'll ask you, a little follow up, is what percentage, if you had to give a percentage, what percentage are you laying on Bryce Young's shoulders?
I'll start with the first. He does deserve blame in this game. I think it's him, and I think it's heavily on the coaching staff as well, and also the execution by the players. So I think it's like if you put those three together, I think that's like, I would say like, I'm not putting a percentage on it, Ricky. I'm sorry, but those are the big three for me.
No, that's right. And I hated even asking that, but you know why I asked that, because
Yes.
it's one of those situations where I think we can all agree there's a lot of parts, or at least you and I are going to agree there are multiple things to blame here. But
Yeah.
Bryce's bad game was a big one that stands out because he's the quarterback of the team and has had bad games.
Yeah, and I did want to start off with him because I'm sorry, but it's year 3 for Bryce Young. This isn't no more excuse time. You've had a year under your belt with this coaching staff. You had the benching. You come back. You look good. We all talked about it. Is the carryover going to happen from the last 5 or 6 games this past season to week 1? And I remember mentioning over and over, this isn't just a guarantee that this is going to keep on rolling like it did in Atlanta. The 5 touchdowns, the 250 plus yards, whatever it was in that last game. And we saw the Bryce Young of week 1 of last year and week 1 of the year before. He was not seeing the safety. That was a really bad interception. I know your reaction. You can jump in a little bit, but I saw a lot of what I saw in those first couple games, and it looked like, again, I don't know what the right word is for it, but just almost hesitant at times, at least for me. Um, and that pick, it brought back, I said this, it looked like that Atlanta, that first game he ever played in Carolina Blue, when he's just staring down a guy, doesn't see the safety coming down, and it was right to him. And
Jesse Bates, yeah.
That was a crucial point in this Jacksonville game this past week. In Carolina, I believe either they held them to a field goal or they just gotten a stop, and Carolina got the ball back. And the drive was starting. There was some success there early on in that drive. And then Bryce Young, I think they were having success with the run, actually. They had a couple of throws in there. And then the mistake happens, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. And then the fumble. He's had issues with that this past season or this last year. I remember in Dallas when he had the fumble, he had that really nice run and then coughed up the ball against Dallas. And those things, they're reoccurring issues. And when a guy's in a year 3, and I gave him grace last year, it's a new staff, all this new parts, new wide receiver this year. And I get it. There's some new guys too that he's thrown to, but your year 3, you can't be making the same mistakes you're making all the time. And that's what killed me the most. Now, I do think, and this goes a little bit off, and then I'll stop because I don't want to get it too much into the conversation, but his guys also have to help him out. There were several opportunities, Xavier Legette not getting the 2 feet down. You had Tedero McMillan late in the game drop a touchdown pass that was beautifully thrown by Bryce Young. So there was opportunities along the way. Hunter Renfrow, I know that one across the middle, Bryce Young maybe could have thrown it a second earlier. But when you're going across the middle, you already know as a wide receiver, you're fair game in there. And when Bryce puts it on you, and I know he got killed, I still think Coker would have caught that ball. We'll never know that. But that one across the middle, like there was several points in that game where those guys could have helped Bryce out. And you even talk about the offensive line. Like there was a point, the Hunter Renfrow throw that he missed down the sideline early on in the game that was probably going to be a touchdown where he underthrew a little bit. He had that Hines guy from Jacksonville barreling down his throat. He threw that out right as Hunter Renfrow started turning upfield. I get it, he underthrew it, but that was a tough throw to make. Yost didn't give him any help on that. If he holds that block, I think it's a touchdown. So there are things, but I do think Bryce Young, the same mistakes coming up again. That's what's just so disheartening for me, because I'm wanting to see that jump off, and it's going to be a massive game this weekend for him, because if he goes down this hole again where he's throwing a couple picks, he's only got 70 yards in the third quarter. We have some real issues at that QB spot very early on in the season. But Ricky, I'll let you go ahead. I know there's a shit ton to talk about. So
there is, but I'm not mad at like sitting here and listening to you give your piece on it, because honestly, I've got a lot to say too, man. And like, you're going to have to stop me if I get into one of my rants and it is just me on the floor on my soapbox going too ham. Pull me back in, reel me in, because let's start here, right? Bryce Young should 100% be held accountable for the mistakes that he made in this game. And some of the mistakes that he made were critical mistakes that will kill a team. The turnovers, protecting the ball has to be like a modus operandi one for Bryce Young in this football team. And the reason for that is because it still appears that the margin of error for this football team is razor thin. And it's going to start leading into some of this conversation on why that's a bullshit problem to still be facing, and why it's not only on Bryce Young that is a problem that we're facing. Now, Bryce exacerbates that when he sits here and he throws interceptions that was an avoidable decision. The interception he threw where the safety jumped that route. Now, when you watch the all 22 from the back end zone view of it, right, I can see where potentially, right, we don't know any of this stuff, but I can see where potentially that safety was behind the receiver, Bryson Tremaine, when he was going out. Mm-hmm. Bryson Tremaine is a large fella. It is entirely possible that Bryce did not see that safety behind him, did not account for where he was, and maybe even thought that safety was going to carry with Bryson Tremaine. Maybe Bryson Tremaine could have done a better job of running to the left. And these are all hypothetical things. I'm not blaming any of these people. But when you break down a play, there's a lot to break down, and it is not simply that player made a mistake. There's moving pieces all over the field, right? Mm-hmm. If you go a little bit further left, you stretch, you run into that defender and you bring him out. He doesn't have a clear way to just come into that window and pick that jump that route and pick that pass off. Not excuse for Bryce Young. You can't make that throw, man. Like, you have to have situational awareness of where you are. I also think that defender got there early. I understand the argument, just as much right to the ball. You can't impede the receiver. I know this is a conversation that Edgar Salmingo Jr. and I were having on Twitter with a lot of other people. At the moment when I was watching it first, I was at the watch party. I wasn't sitting here watching it on my TV. I wasn't watching from different angles. I didn't even watch the replay, for crying out loud. I'm at a watch party at a bar in Charlotte. I was enjoying myself, or at least trying to, and then that just ruined it right off the bat, right? But when I saw it, I saw the replay, and it was him knocking Xavier Legette off of his spot, and it looked to me like he impeded the receiver's ability to make a play on that ball. The other part about that, make a play on that ball, Xavier Legette could have done better at that. Xavier Legette could have been more aggressive going for that ball. These are all hindsight, and they're all things that you could say. Bryce Young is the quarterback. He is the decision maker. The ball is in his hands. You have to be better than that. So put that on Bryce Young. The fumble, absolutely no excuse for it. I mean, literally no excuse. There's nothing. Canales said, well, I think he might have stumbled when he was running. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, man. Protect yourself and the possession when you go to the ground at all times. Especially for a guy who is as slight a frame as Bryce Young is. A big hit can cost him and the possession. You can get hurt doing that. We know he's very durable, but it takes one big hit, man. That's it. Hell, I saw Derek Brown damn near cut Travis Hunter at half by hitting him on the ankle, right? Like, a smaller guy gets affected a little bit more by a big guy hitting him. That's just the way the world works. As for Bryce, and did he look like week 1 of 2024? I didn't see that. I did not see a panicked Bryce Young. I did not see a Bryce Young who snowballed with negativity. I did see a Bryce Young that had some sort of weird coaching points going on with his footwork again. And here's what I want to point to that. Dan Orlovsky brought that up, right, in his tweet where he talked about it. But how about this? When did the coaching points get implemented? When did you decide to work on his? And look, you are always working on fundamentals and basics and footwork in football. So this isn't like news. This isn't specific to Bryce Young. But when did you start that? I'm assuming in the offseason, right? You gave him some coaching points and said, hey, I want to clean a couple things up. I want to work on that. Do you know what one of the best ways to do that is? preseason game reps. See how it looks in game action against live fire of a different football team. Even if it's only for 4 or 5 reps, right? Or 5 sets series of football. It can't just be 1 or 2 with 2 handoffs and that's it. Being called by the offensive coordinator who isn't going to call football games in the regular season. You want to see how somebody executes? You put them in game situations, and you put them in game situations where the results don't count against your team. For crying out loud, dude, this is the same thing that we have been going through for 2 years now, where they're not, or 3 years really, if you want to count the other year, but the rookie year, we'll get into that too. It's a different animal for me. The context of everything that's around him, half the damn weapons that he had aren't in the NFL anymore. Like, the offensive line's not in the NFL anymore. The coaches aren't in the NFL anymore. So, like, we get into that, but, like, I'm not holding that rookie year with all of that newly placed context of what we know it turned out as, not putting that against him. You can't erase it. It happened. But what we saw from Bryce Young at the end of last season is what I anticipate seeing. I did not see Bryce Young of 2024 at the beginning. I did not see the panic. I saw mistakes. I saw disconnected footwork with his throwing. But I also saw a guy that made really good throws. I saw a guy that had 7 passes dropped. I saw a guy that had protection issues once again. Now, he also had protection issues on his part. I don't think that he even saw, once again, a defensive back blitz coming hot off the side. I don't think that he saw it. And that's an issue, man. You have to be able to see that. One way that you can find some of these pre-snap things that can help you and help your operation is having a little bit more time on the clock when you get to the line. I don't know who it is, and it's probably Bryce Young has a lot to do with it because Bryce Young has had these issues for all 3 seasons he's been in the NFL. But this is a correctable issue, and for them not to have corrected it and not to be hammering it in that this has to be different, there has to be urgency. Dude, it is a big problem for me that coaching and the players can't figure this kind of shit out. That's inexcusable for me. As far as just the play on the field, though, I don't understand how, if you liked what you saw from Bryce for 10 games at the end of last season, like really truly bought into it, not just did it because you were enjoying a little bit of a ride that was different than what you had been on, right? Not that. If you truly thought that what you saw from Bryce Young in those games was good enough to make this team a successful football team, this one game didn't erase that for me. It just didn't. I think when you add in the context of not being prepared and a coaching staff not putting their team in the best position for success, if Dave Canales didn't want the rest of the NFL to see his offense, so he didn't run it in the preseason, that's what he was trying to do, keep all the state secrets at home so that no one knows them, why the hell did you come out and run the most vanilla offense you've ever run in your life in week 1 against the Jaguars? Mm-hmm. I mean, why? What was the benefit of that? What was the reason that you did that? And don't tell me, well, we got a little bit off cue and think, no, man, you were wildly predictable. You did not move the pocket at all. All the things that Bryce Young found success doing at the end of last season, how much of that did you see on Sunday? Not much.
None of it.
I saw them trying to find new coaching points and implement them and do it differently. I don't get it, man. The situational stuff we talk about with Canales, it's still there. There are big time issues with what he does on offense, in my opinion. I'll stop there for right now.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in on that because I agree with you. The play calling this past week looked like the play calling early on last year. Very vanilla, not letting Bryce take his shots. It was almost like he was handcuffed. I agree with you there 100%. I also do want to talk about Canales, though, for a second, because that's the whole other part of this, and I think that needs to be delved into a little bit further. And you talked about it, Ricky, with the preseason. I remember folks defending him for, letting these guys go after a couple series in 2 games. And then we have the graphic. I made the graphic where you had these the guys who don't call plays calling plays because they're a developmental staff the first 2 games, and then you have Canales and Evero calling that last game when the starters aren't in there. And again, we talked about it when this came up, but Canales found a way to mess up preseason again. He found a way to do that. No matter how way you slice it, he found a way to screw that up. Last year, he didn't play the starters enough. This year, he played them a little bit more and said this will help them get into a routine. It wasn't even like they need some more playing time, as getting into a routine, waking up, getting ready for the game day, whatever you're doing during that time. And again, he found a way to it goes to his rookiness of a coach. Like he's a greenhorn when it comes to that stuff. He's so green with with the head coach position. And it's like, what are we doing here? I mean, he's acting like this team, and I tweeted this out, is like the Ravens, the Chiefs. I mean, none of their starters play much. And even those teams played their starters a lot in preseason.
Right.
But he follows this like almost like this team is like ready to go out of the gates, and they haven't proven that. So why aren't we trying to get better in preseason? Not in joint practices, not in practices. That's not enough. That proved that last year when they looked terrible out of the gate. So then we're going to keep doing that again this year. It makes no sense to me.
Well, and James,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no. I want to talk about this because James made a comment about preseason. I don't want it to seem like both of us are harping and saying that we lost this game because of the preseason. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second, that we lost this game because of the preseason.
But they would have been better prepared. It's that simple.
It's a commitment to the fact that when you sit there and say that you are working on developing your coaching staff in the preseason, that's a thing that an established team does that feels like they don't have kinks to iron out at the beginning of a season, that they feel really confident about hitting the ground running, and that they have seen enough over the years, over the many vast examples of NFL football that they have, right? Of successful NFL football. The Carolina Panthers don't have that right now. This roster of Carolina Panthers do not have a proven successful track record at playing football, especially not under Dave Canales. He is a first-time head coach. This is his second season coming into it. He said that he learned a lesson from last preseason. He was asked that by the beat reporters at the end of that season, or before this preseason started. He said, so you're going to play your starters in the preseason? He goes, yeah, I think I learned a little bit from last year. I think I learned that could be beneficial. He's like, I'm still not sure exactly how we're going to do it. But he said he learned a lesson. What lesson did you learn? That you should keep experimenting with different things? No, man, like you have to commit. They talk about fundamentals. They talk about the basics of the game. And yet they don't want to play games of football when you have the opportunity to play them. Joint practice is cool, man. I get it. That's all the rage right now. It doesn't show up. All these things that they say, and this is going to lead me directly into the next thing that I want to talk about, Curtis, if you'll oblige me here, because I want to know your take on this. And this is where I'm going to start getting pissed off. And this is where I'm going to sound like a hater. And this is where people are going to start thinking that there's something wrong with me and that I'm out. First, hold on. Before we do this, we had a super chat. Let me do this. Let me not ignore the super chat, because I will go off on a tangent here and I will feel terrible about forgetting this. Nervash, if I'm not saying that right, please comment in the chat and tell me. $5 says, why was Corbett launching snaps high all game long? One of the more bizarre things I've seen. He's not really a center from previous years before 2023. Exactly correct. We talked about this before he got the job as a center, right? That we had literally not a single player on the roster that had center experience in the NFL. Not a single one before the 2024 season. Not one. Except for the undrafted free agent out of Oklahoma, Andrew Raym, who sat on the practice squad for the majority of the season. He's the only one that ever played center in any kind of organized ball. Corbett was a tackle at Nevada. He was a guard with the Rams. They tried to play him at center with the Cleveland Browns. He lost the job. That's why they moved him to guard. He wasn't good at it. Athletic, very smart. The snaps seem to be a real issue. But then you know what? This is a perfect segue. So thank you, Nervash. First of all, cheers to you, man.
Yes, cheers.
Appreciate the super chat. Everybody, too, if you are sick of hearing me or Curtis rant tonight, you break it up with a super chat. Come in here and start ranting with us or something, man. Tell me to take a shot. I'll go outside and get the Buffalo Trace right now. I will get housed on this show tonight because I'm pissed off about all this. All right, so let's talk about this then, off of what Nervash brings up here. Or after what I just said, I guess. The way they talk about things, right? It is facilitating problems for this football team. Dave Canales and Bryce Young, the way that they speak with their ultra positivity, I got no problem, man, trying to make things good. I got no problem. And I don't want someone coming out and yelling and name calling and doing all this kind of throwing under the bus. That's not beneficial. I'm not looking for that. I am not. But Dave Canales came out and talked about that operation of the pre-snap and of the snaps. Was asked about it today in the presser. Said, how was it? Right? He says, oh yeah, no, I thought the operation was pretty smooth, actually, for the game. I thought it was really smooth. I didn't see much of the issue with that. And then Bryce Young comes out, someone says, how much were those snaps affecting you? He says, well, you know what? Honestly, before you guys asked me, I didn't even notice. It wasn't affecting me at all. Well, we got a big fucking problem, boys. Like, we got a big old problem. If you watch the way that game went and the way that the snap and pre-snap operation went, and you think everything went exactly how you wanted and it was good, and it went pretty smooth, you're teaching the wrong brand of football. There's no time for pre-snap recognition. There is no time. How many times did you see them use motion in this game? Not a lot. I saw him use motion in the preseason more than I saw him on this regular season game. And it was a way that Bryce Young identified man coverage. It was a way for him to get a better idea of what he could do and where he would not want to attack the field based off of pre-snap recognition. And the Jacksonville Jaguars did a good job of mixing some stuff up post-snap. There was a lot that they were showing. There was a lot that they were offering. There was a lot to digest. And they did not make it easier on themselves. But the way that this team plays, Curtis, you said timid earlier, right? That what you talked about with Bryce Young?
I think I said hesitant.
Okay. I'm going to say timid. I'm going to say that the whole team plays timid, though. Defense as well. The whole team plays as if we make a cardinal sin, if we make a big-time mistake, we'll learn from it. It's going to be okay. We're going to learn from it. We're all going to sit down. We're going to have, an ice cream sundae, and we're going to be disappointed but encouraged. We're going to figure this out. That doesn't work, man, when your team sucks. It doesn't work when you suck at playing football. And no matter what you say, if there are moments, if there are highlights, if there are glimmers, you won, 5 games last season? 4 games last season? You already lost this game in stupendous fashion. What do you think you have earned that gives you the right to say, I'm excited about learning from these situations? You shouldn't be. You said, I'm proud of the way my guys finished. They get paid millions of dollars to play football. Of course they're going to finish. There's 60 minutes in a game. They're not just going to stop playing. We got a team full of Antonio Bryant's not going to take the jersey off and run down the damn tunnel, right? They're going to play. I want you to be proud of the way that they start, the way that they play in the middle, and then the way that they finish. If you're not proud of a team for 3 quarters of a football game and they're down, it was 26-3. They were getting smoked. It took that Chuba Hubbard touchdown to make this look like we played football on Sunday. And that was fantastic. The minute they started getting in some rhythm and started changing up the pace, they played like the Carolina Panthers did at the end of last year. But every chance that they got to do something like that, some sort of fork popped up in the road. And when you go to the red zone and you don't kick field goals, even though you can't get in the end zone and you're not taking the points, why not? You got to come away with something, man, something to hang your hat on. But the way that this team is coached is the way they play. There's a movie or a show, and I can't remember what it was. I think we talked about it on this show actually before, that says some people look like their pets or their pets look like the owners, right? You see like some lady walking around with this giant poodle with this fluffy, huge blonde white hair. And then you look up at her, you pan up, and she's got this giant frizzy blonde hair. Guess what? We play like Dave Canales talks about football. It sounds really cool and pretty. And when we have the lead and we're ahead of things, it looks smart. It looks exciting. It looks young and vibrant and cutting edge. It looks great when you're a front runner. But when you're getting curb stomped by teams and everybody is just flat on the sideline, tell me whose job it is to get rid of the flat line and start making some fucking waves for this team. Whose job is it? Because that's the person that I want to have a conversation with and tell them that they're not doing their job. This team has no life, man. If they're not far ahead, they have no life. And that's killing us, man. It is absolutely killing us.
Mic drop. Well said, man. Well said. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go back to something you brought up right off the jump, and that was Canales' response today. if you weren't a Panthers fan, listen to that, and your jaw didn't drop when he said it. Things look smooth in the pre-snap operation. No way in hell. I mean, he's on crack. It's that simple. That issue has been with this team since Canales has got here, and honestly, it's been an issue for years with this team of getting out of the huddle, getting up to the line of scrimmage, deciphering what the defense is doing, get your checks in, and then let's snap the ball. And I remember pointing that out last year many, many times. And I will say I was one that was kind of leading the charge on that this week. And I think that's why the beat asked him about it, because I was like, they would get up to the line of scrimmage at a decent amount of time. Honestly, this past game, they did. I was looking at it. It would be in that 10 to 15 second range. But then Bryce Young was either making an adjustment, changing a protection, and that ball wasn't getting snapped till 1. And you know what teams do when that happens? They tee off on you. And when you got a backup left tackle playing, that ain't good. That's a recipe for disaster. Man. So you should be snapping that ball at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4, changing it up so they can't tee off on you. And that's what they were doing in this game. I mean, they were ears pinned back and just going right at Bryce. And it was pressure all day. So that's the frustrating thing, and that's where you saw the issues. And then couple that with what the chat said is with Austin Corbett and his 20 high snaps he had. I mean, the snaps were as high as J.C. Horn jump for that pick, and we're sitting here and Bryce Young ain't ready for one of the snaps. I mean, it was a full-on disaster between those two, and I wanted to know, is it Dave Canales not getting the play call in time for Bryce? Or is it Bryce taking forever to either dissect what's going on and get the protection set, or is he changing the play because he doesn't like what Canales called?
Yeah.
So it was just, this operation has been this way. And what frustrates me, and you talk about how Canales talks in pressers, what frustrates me is that's a focus this week. Dude, that's been a focus since last year.
Exactly.
And you haven't figured it out. Why? This ain't no more focusing. You need to change your shit so this thing there's a smooth oiled operation, because it's not right now. Don't say it's smooth.
Yeah.
It's not smooth. It's been terrible.
Dude, it could very easily be cadence issues with the snap too, because I saw times where it looked like it was a silent snap with Bryce hitching his leg. And
he hitched it twice and
multiple times, and nothing happened. And then the minute that he went to check, yes, and then the minute he went to check, that ball hits him in the chest. Like it was on that 4th and 1, the play that had miscommunication too. Watch when that ball is snapped, nobody else moves outside of Damian Lewis in the center. And no one moves.
The play-by-play thought there was an offsides call because no one moved.
Because no one moved, man. Like, that is not smooth operation. And when you're talking about 4th and 1 from the 5, it needs to be smooth. It needs to be clean.
Call a timeout and burn it. It's
burn a timeout, dude.
Like, yes, exactly.
It's game management and situational work. And we criticized it a lot last year, and it didn't get better. And they didn't take, this is again the preseason argument. The preseason is not going to make these players different players. I agree with that 1,000%. But it gets a lot of this weird operational shit out of the way, man. Get it out of the way. These guys should have been playing damn near a half of football. All of them, the starters, on both sides of the ball. And we could get into the other individual stuff. But when you talk about basics and fundamentals, you had an opportunity to work on that stuff, man. And I will die on that hill. I don't care. I know that it might seem crazy. It's 3 games. How much are they going to get from, a game and a half if they each play a half? A lot. You know how much they would get? The entire game of this Jacksonville Jaguars game, plus the next half of the other game. So if we start really slow again against Arizona, I bet you're going to wish that they had a little bit extra practice at it. And they are veering into territory right now. Because of this start, they are veering into territory where this can snowball and become a massive issue for this football team. And I don't just mean for this year. This can have franchise implications if we have seen that Bryce is a guy that does way better with momentum and confidence and feeling natural and playing, within himself and doing these things. But if he's going to do that, man, there's got to be results to make him feel decent about what he's working. And right now, that ain't there, man. Outside of Tedero and McMillan, tell me who else you saw in that game. And Chuba Hubbard, on the offensive side of that ball, tell me who you saw that you felt really good about. Taylor Moton, too, and Rob Hunt. Offensive line was okay outside of Yash. Get him out. Got to be done. Got to go.
And, you mentioned that sideline stuff. It's we're bouncing around here, but
bounce. It's all good. We got a lot of shit.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of liked seeing Bryce, and I don't like seeing this because it was in a bad situation, but I kind of liked seeing Bryce Young slam the helmet down in that game. Like, it showed he's a little pissed off. And you don't see that side out of him. And I think that kind of got him out of his shell a little bit. I don't know what that conversation, we're never going to know. We don't know. Bryce Young could have been bitching at Canales. He's never going to say that. And it looks like if you watch the whatever from the end zone view, it looked like maybe Tedero McMillan ran the wrong route on that 4th and 1 play. It was after the 4th and 1 he threw the helmet. But did you see that? Was it something where he was supposed to rub the guy and Leggett was supposed to be open in the end zone?
I think it's entirely possible, but when you ask, and the head coach got asked specifically about this, and
he's never going to reveal it.
No, he's never going to reveal that, right? But when you ask him about it, and he said, was that a rub route, right? Was that a rub concept where he was supposed to kind of free him up? Maybe. And it looked like it might have been, and it looked like it might have worked, right? Bryce went to it. He looked for him. I just think also the timing of the play was off because of the snap. I think everything starts there. I want to talk a little bit about that play too, from another sense. 4th and 1 from the 5, and you go empty with Chuba Hubbard on the outside. I know a lot has been made and good articles have been written about the adjustment that Dave Canales made with Bryce Young last year, putting him in empty formations and letting him work, right? I understand that. I don't think that all of that happened within the 5-yard line. They ran underneath center on 1st down of that series and got 8 yards with Chuba Hubbard. In a more traditional formation, 8 yards under center. Our team last year, our rushing game had like almost a 0.3 increase on their EPA per rush when rushing from under center. They were like a point or a plus 0.4 when rushing from under center. That's a really good metric, by the way. I know that sounds minuscule, but those EPAs, that's points average or points added per play. You're talking about 0.4 points per play. Like, that's a really good metric as opposed to like 0.1 for under shotgun. I don't have a problem, man, letting Bryce Young execute. That ain't it. A lot of people are like, hey, if you can't trust Bryce Young to execute in that situation, he's not your franchise quarterback. My question is, why does he have to? And what benefit are you giving him with the defense being able to look and say, I can tell you one thing they're not going to do on this play. They're not going to use their $100 million interior offensive line and their other running back that they just gave $30 million to. They're not going to use them in a run play. So, like, it's either going to be their 5'9" quarterback going for a run here, which, hey, by the way, we'll just spy with one of our guys. We'll just hold him on there. Or he's throwing the football. You're just giving the defense less to think about. Create advantages. Put your team in better positions. I don't like that call, man. I just don't. You don't have to run the football either. What do we see about the Chargers? Someone just posted something great. The Chargers don't even run the ball all that often. Like, they're not like a run-dominant football team. But they come out in some of the heaviest personnel packages and sell that they're going to run the football better than anyone else in the NFL. And they work the shit out of play action with that. They work the hell out of it. We've got Tommy Tremble. We've got Mitchell Evans. We got JT Sanders. We can run 12, 22 personnel. You can run that. You could have Rico Dowell and Chuba Hubbard in the back together. You can run these heavy packages. You could have T-Mac out there as a receiver. You can do that stuff and still have threatening players and concepts that you can run while giving the defense way more to think about from an advantage and mismatch standpoint. But instead, we line Chuba up far side. What are you going to do with Chuba? What was he doing in that play? They pretty much looked at that right side and were like, well, it ain't going here. and yeah, on that play, if Tet had rubbed, would he have drawn his defender off? Maybe, right? Either way, whatever Tet was doing there or T-Mac was doing with that route, it took too long to develop. If it wasn't a rub concept, he took way too many steps on his release and got too far up and kept his defender in that area. That defender in that area, you throw that, liable to be a pick six if you want to know the honest to God truth. If he is staring right at Bryce Young with his shoulder square to Bryce, if Bryce goes to throw that to Xavier, he jumps that the way that safety jumped the other one. It's up to Bryce to stop him. I don't love that. Now, Bryce should never throw that ball out of bounds either. Fire that thing at somebody's chest, right? Get it in traffic, get it congested. I understand the argument too, the analytics argument of, well, if they catch it in the end zone, it's a touchback to get the ball out. Now they were at the 5. You tried to sandwich them and sandbag them back there. That's a whole lot of like, hey, when we don't get this, here's what we want to do about it. Where's the confidence of we're going to get this first down? Because that wasn't even goal to go, Curtis. It was 4th and 1. He had to get 1 yard. This team had to get 1 yard. And they go empty. I'm sorry. I don't care for it. I don't like it. They said it was the right call. They liked it a whole lot. Bryce was confident in it. Y'all could be as confident as you want to be. It was unsuccessful. It was a failure of a play.
Let's talk a little bit more about the offense, and we'll jump to the other side. We'll get to Zachary's super chat here in a second. Thoughts on both Legette and then a little bit more positive here on McMillan. So let's just talk about those two guys. Let's kind of jump off Bryce a little bit. Canales, we can always go back to them because there's a lot. There's a lot of
feel bad
stuff
for
out
him.
there.
You starting to feel bad for him, Curtis?
Hell no, I'm not feeling bad for them. I'm tired of this team looking like ass. They deserve it.
Let's bring up Ants. Let's bring up C3 Anthony's comment here so that we can start with Xavier Legette, because this is a sentiment that I have seen from many fans in the fan base at this point, and I don't got nothing to say to you about it right now. He said Xavier Legette has some Mingo-isms to him. Laughing out loud. Hey, we got to laugh to not feel the pain, right? Here's what I'll say. I don't think he's Mingo per se, but the situational and field awareness is rough, man. Like, I saw somebody talking about we need to, work on this. We need to work on these basics in practice a little bit more. It's like, for real? You think so? Because I don't know that if somebody doesn't know that the thick white line out there is the out of bounds boundary and that you got to get your feet in before then, if you don't know that at this level as a 26-year-old second-year player, I don't know that practice is going to do it for you, man. That's one of the things I think you need to know. And it's one of those things that is a difficult workaround. Like, it seems really obvious, but a lot of guys that don't have the innate feel for playing football and knowing where their body is on the field, you don't see that turn around all that often in a big time way. You can see guys have fine years. You can see guys have decent production. But I don't remember the last time that I saw a dominant receiver or playmaker, tight end, running back, whatever, that had a really difficult time making simple catches. That was a catch he has to make, Curtis. What'd you think of that one? I mean, I thought that he had enough room to get 3 feet in, and he got 1.
This is how I feel, and it's this super chat. This guy has got way too much talent to be playing like he's playing. He's making mistakes that Mingo did make. I will agree with that. Like that, the one this past weekend that he missed, it reminded me of Jonathan Mingo. Like, what are we doing here? You watched the replay on it. I agree with you. I thought he could have gotten 3 in. And he steps out, and you saw today Jimmy Horn was making them toe taps on the sideline. I'm just saying. So, but no, going back to XL, man, like really, I'm pulling for this guy. I want this guy to pull it all together this year, and I thought he was gonna. And I know it's so early; it's only week 1, and he has a ton of more opportunities. But when you see that shit, it takes you another step back, and it's like, you got to keep working back up to this. So it's frustrating because like Chris said, like, he has the talent. I think sometimes his internal clock is sped up too fast, and he's trying to move too fast, and then you look at it and you're not even in bounds, and it's like, dude, make the play, put both feet down, and move on to the next play. And I do think, and it goes back to like kind of his work ethic where he kind of like overworks and then gets hurt. Like Canales has talked about that, where he kind of overworks sometimes. Like, I think sometimes he's just so sped up when he's on the field. I think he just needs to like bring it down a level. It's okay. Like, that's personally how I feel. I think there's too much going on up here, and he's not. It's clouding his his play, I think you could say, of what he should be doing. Because if you go back to his tape at South Carolina, the year he was really successful, he wasn't making some of these mistakes. He didn't have a lot of drops at all in college. So I think the game needs to slow down for him. He needs to just like almost take a step back and like let's put the reins down a little bit for the horse analogy. Let's put the reins down a little bit and let's slow the thing down, because I think too much I don't know if he's thinking too much or what it is, but it just seems like things are getting sped up in his mind, and it's creating a disaster out there.
Well, can you break him? If we're going to do the horse analogy, can you break him? Is he too damn wild? Is he never going to be a stud, right? Is he never going to be the horse that you can get to focus and ride, right? Or has he just got too much giddy up for it? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man. Here's the damn part of it. What are you talking about? You're talking about he gets too much in his head and he's doing too much, right? We get Bryce is doing too much. He's in his head too much. He's not playing instinctually. How is it that we have maybe the most lackadaisical coach that I can think of when it comes to just like, hey, recenter, focus. Like it's okay. Yeah. We made really bad mistakes today, and I'm super excited about learning from those. How do we got that guy? And our players are out there and just like have SAT questions running through their head while they're also trying to catch a football or throw a football or read a defense. Like there's something that is disconnected here with the way that this team is executing and operating the game of football. I hope that they said it. They're like first game jitters. They talked about it. We'll get better. A lot of teams. And hey, look, let's be really fair and candid about this. A lot of teams looked really bad on week 1 last year in the NFL. A lot of teams looked really bad this year in the NFL in week 1. CJ Stroud, the guy that everyone wants to, Panthers made a Cardinal or a huge mistake and did the worst thing they could have ever done by drafting Bryce Young and not CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud hadn't looked sharp, friends. He hadn't looked good either. I would argue that Bryce Young's last 12 days or 12 games of playing NFL football have been better than CJ Stroud's last 12 games of playing NFL football. I would argue that. And I think that what it shows you is that nothing is guaranteed to you. You got to work every single day, and you have to keep practicing, and you have to keep hammering stuff out. You can't get,
sound like Canales.
Yeah. Except I want them to do it. Except I want them to actually do it, and I want them to do it and not in a fun way. Like, do you remember when they disciplined themselves after the preseason, and Bryce and Chuba disciplined the team, and they made them run 2 hills, right? Yeah. And everyone was like, see, that's the attitude. You remember when Xavier Legette punched somebody in the preseason? They're like, hey, we need more of that, right? We need more punching. We need more fire. What'd that fire do for this roster, Curtis? Where's that fire at on Sunday? Where was XL's fire on Sunday? Where were those hills? Where was that, hey, accountability, right? Because you know what? Sometimes it's great to have the individual accountability from the players. It's great. Right? It's a little ecosystem that you want to be able to run on its own. But a lot of times there's a starter for that ecosystem that you got to build it. You got to plant something in it, right? You have to add all the pieces so that it can run the way that it needs to run. That means that there's a manufacturer, a conductor, if you will. That's the coach. I'm not saying that I'm out on Dave Canales, but if there are people that are going to be out on Bryce Young, how are we just giving passes to this coaching staff? There were games last year for this really bright offensive coach. There were games last year where Bryce Young made him look competent, if you want my honest to God opinion. It wasn't all because Dave Canales is some quarterback whisperer. I don't buy that. And the going empty, this whole premise, this whole conversation about that's what saved Bryce Young. What is the concept of going empty? What's the benefit of that? It's so that the quarterback can execute with what he sees, and he makes his decisions. He makes his read. You're betting on your quarterback having the juice and the smarts to make plays over that defense. No matter what they show, you're betting on your quarterback to make the right decision. That's what that is. That's the basis of it. So if the quarterback is good enough to get that trust from the coach, where did that trust go on Sunday? Because he didn't give it to him. Bryce wasn't playing free, man. We have got to get back to it. And you know what? Maybe if he's playing more freely, maybe XL could play more freely. Tedderoa McMillan is the other guy we were supposed to talk about in this segment before I turned it back on to Dave Canales and Bryce Young, because that's just what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I feel like I am stuck in Groundhog's Day. Like I just woke up to Sonny and Cher playing, but instead it's Canales on the press conference saying I'm excited and disappointed. Like that's the thing that is just going to keep playing every morning at 6:40 in the morning for me. But Tedderoa McMillan's the other guy. I loved what I saw from Tedderoa McMillan. I saw a guy that looks the part. I mean, straight out of the gate, looks the part of a volume target player that can handle it, that can tempo his routes so that he can run a full route tree. He can run intermediates. He can run crossers. He can run curls. He can run digs. He can run nines. He can, post. There is physical advantage for him in just about every situation you look at. He's not a burner, but how much of a vertical game did we see from him? This guy is going to be a threat in every single level of the field. And that's exactly what you look for out of a top 10 pick that plays wide receiver. I'm extremely happy that he's here. It's a shame that he's here right now without Jalen Coker, because I think that was a huge difference in this game. When you get rid of Adam Thielen, you did it because of Jalen Coker. And then Jalen Coker's quad explodes in practice, like literally right after. It was almost like Adam was like in his Tahoe on the way to his box of Triscuits in Minnesota and had a little Coker doll and put a pin right in the quad. Like it was just like, it was crazy how it happened right afterwards, right? He's just sitting there and enjoying a nice thick slice of Colby Jack cheese on his way to the Minnesota homelands. And he's like, watch this, boys. Like it was nuts. But not having the full complement, and there were some of those throws to Hunter Renfrow. If Hunter Renfrow was 6'1", 6'2" with 40-inch vertical, right? I'm just going to put that out there. Some of those throws are a little bit different. I thought the throw that Hunter got lit up on, a lot of people called it a hospital ball. I thought he didn't really have to leave his feet. If you want my honest opinion, I thought he could have caught it. I didn't think he had to leave his feet. And I think that if it was Adam Thielen or Jalen Coker, I don't think he leaves his feet. But this is what happens when you don't have experience playing with your slot receiver, who has been the slot position, has been a big-time friend for Bryce Young. And the concepts that they run out of the playbook, a lot of them rely on good slot play. So, yeah, this is what you get. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. But what we got with Tedderoa McMillan, man, that's a ball player. I'm excited about him. You print the shirts. Tedderoa McMillan's a ball player.
He's a stud. He is. He proved that. And he proved to be a security blanket. I think there was a couple times Bryce Young looked. There was a crucial third down. He had a really nice grab on. A couple slants, actually, I think. I think if he gets that ball back, the one that should have been a touchdown, I think he makes that catch probably 9 times out of 10, honestly. But yeah, there's a lot of good things from him in this game. And, this kind of is a little tease. We have a bet later on, a little parlay. So look forward to that, because he may or may not be in there.
And he may or may not be from the person that did hit their bet last week.
Let's talk about Zachary Hernandez. $10 super chat. What's up, fellas? The Panthers haven't had an identity or culture since Steve Wilkes was let go. Run the fucking ball, all caps. Also own the development of coaching staff and play the young dogs. Keep pounding. Hey, man, I think we all agree with this, and I think this is kind of a good segue to the defense, because I think that's what everyone is.
Cheers, man. Appreciate the super chat, man, and thanks for always being in here and hanging out with us, bro.
Amen to that. I think a lot of people are wondering about the young guys on defense, because they did play young guys on offense. But the flip side, we have our 2 draft picks in both Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen, and they had 11 combined snaps the entire game with 0 sacks on the day.
I thought they played in the 20s. I thought their combined numbers.
20s?
I think Nick played 18, and I think that Princely played 8. I think.
You can talk. I'm going to check up on that just to make sure. But,
is that what we're talking about, though, was the young players?
And it's going to take away to the defense here, too.
Well, and, because Canales said something about it, right? And he's like, hey, I want to get the defensive young guys some looks. Like every rep that they get on the field is important and valuable to them, and they can really benefit from it. But we need to make sure that they're ready. And I think that most of that was in question of Lathan Ransom, because I think that was the line of questioning at that moment, was asking about Nick Scott and stuff, because then he pivoted back and he said, "But for
26 snaps, you're
26.
Right, 26.
That's what I thought. Okay, 18-8, right?
Yep.
I could have sworn that's what I saw. And I think Pat played a little bit less in the second half. I don't know if I saw he was on the injury report today with an ankle, so maybe he came up a little bit lame, and that's where Nick started getting a little bit more looks, because Nick wasn't involved at all, and then did a little bit later in the game. I think that the problem, man, that I have with Evero, first I will say this. I can't believe I'm saying this as one of the positive things.
I saw this tweet this week.
Dude, it wasn't completely bad in the secondary for the Carolina Panthers. And the run defense, if you get rid of, and I want to make a caveat on this, though, because you can't just get rid of plays. These fucking things happen, man, and people are to blame for them, right? So you can't get rid of it. But let's do the fun thing that people do on the internet, and let's get rid of the 70-yard breakaway run by ETN, right? If you get rid of that, I mean, you gave up 130 yards rushing. That's still not good, but it's not 200 yards rushing again, especially when they focused on running the football a good bit. They didn't challenge us a whole lot deep in the past game. I thought Brian Thomas Jr. had one catch all game. He had a little reverse sweep that he ran.
Horn locking him up. And yeah. I'll tell you what, Mike Jackson
had a hell of a game.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Jackson had a really nice game, man. And you can point to a couple of reps where Mike might have, got beat on his responsibility. But that's going to happen, dude. Like, it's going to happen. But Mike Jack played a really nice game. JC Horn was phenomenal. I mean, that is a duo right there that can work for us. It really can.
Can we talk about that play, though, quickly? I know we're trying to get to the young guys, but I want to get your take on that 70-yarder, because me and Dunk kind of were chatting online as well about it a little bit. Thoughts on Merrick's position on that play? And then also number 21. You can call him by his name. He doesn't get a name any longer for me. So it's 21 and Merrick. Yeah. What did you think of those guys? And even the pass rusher on that one as well, because I think he played a role. I think that might have been Pat Jones. I can't remember.
It was Wanham.
Oh, was it Wanham on that side?
It was. So I have had great conversations, or I've seen great posts and had conversations about this play with multiple people that I respect very, very much, their acumen on football. And, Matt Waldman is one of them that pointed out the pre-snap numbers, right? On the right side, we had more players. On the left side, they had more players. That's a disadvantage right there. The down blocking by the Jags moved everybody to that side. Wanham on that block, on that comeback block from the weak side, he used his outside shoulder to destruct that block, right? From a typical coaching standpoint, that wouldn't be what you would say, right? You typically wouldn't want to do that because you don't have control of the way that you fall. Now, Merrick, on his spacing and where he lined up and how he approached that, the angle that he sat at, he had two choices. He thought that ETN either goes in that gap where he just blew up that block, and there's a pile that is likely to be there. When he deconstructs that block, there's a pile of him and that tight end. It was Bretton Strange and DJ Wanham should be making a pile right there. Mm-hmm. When he used his outside shoulder, he fell backwards like this instead of falling in. Instead of making a pile, he came back, which allowed that alley to still be open for ETN. ETN also made a really nice cut to get in there and make that run. Before that happened, Trevin did what Trevin did all game, where he found a Jaguar player and he just kind of sunk into him. Like this dude, Dunk, you just mentioned Dunk said something earlier that I thought was poignant. He's a block magnet. Like he is literally sucked into blocks and doesn't get off of them. And it is a big problem. The way that he makes a miscalculation that ends up being hemmed up for the entire play. Now, he made an effort play to get back out there and try to get, that play to stop and not turn into a house call. So kudos for that. I'm glad that he didn't give up on it. Merrick made a mistake. He guessed wrong. Yeah. He guessed that bounces outside. He took the outside gap.
ETN cuts it inside.
ETN cuts it inside, and Merrick has to wear that. You know what I'm saying? You got to wear that. Now, I thought that for the rest of the game, though, Merrick took some really nice angles from, down at the line of scrimmage, from inside the box. I thought that he did a really nice job in run support. But that is one of those plays. But the end of that play is 21.
Yeah. Last line of resort.
It's the last line. And I get it. It's a one-on-one.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
it's a one-on-one with an elusive.
It's a power play. Not it's you and the goalie in the net. Like that's
absolutely, absolutely. And more times than not, the offensive player wins that matchup, right? Like at least in hockey, in football, when you're looking at it, he had a good angle. ETN didn't make a big time move on that run.
He had him ramped up.
He is an elusive runner, and he did do a really good job of getting his feet high up to try to break out of that before he was able to wrap, right? But all of that said, I mean seriously, man, we can't do this thing with every single play if we're not going to give grace and context to all the other players on this team. I for damn sure am not going to do it with that Nick Scott play. I will say this about Nick Scott. The rest of his game was not egregious. There was one other play that I would highlight, and it was the big play by Brenton Strange, where he got loose for, I think, like a 24-yard gain early in the game. Trayvon Merrick, again, was down in the box. He tailed Travis Hunter on a crosser, and they didn't pass that off correctly. Nick Scott moved towards the middle of the field beforehand and completely lost containment of his zone over here. And that's where Strange ended up catching that ball, and it ended up having to be Ransom that came down and made that tackle. But those two plays are the only two plays that when I watched the game again, that really stood out as like, that's definitely his fault. And I think that he made mistakes there. But those two plays, let's add up the yardage. Add up the yardage. It's 71 yards and 24. That's 95 yards of offense in two plays that you can hang on the back of his jersey, right? Like you wear them like a little, we used to get stickers on our helmets when I played. We called them snot knockers, right? They're little crossbones type things. You put them on there, you got a little snot knocker. You did something cool. You knocked somebody's ass out, whatever it was. That was back when football wanted to hurt people. But now I think that we should make them wear the yardage that they give up. I think Nick Scott should have a 95 on the back of his helmet and be like, hey, that's week one, buddy. Like, and if you reach 100, you're on the bench. So you got 5 yards for me, man. I'm going to give you 5 more yards because I do not understand this logic of we're going to the youth movement. I'll bring it back for you, Curtis.
Yes, I was just about to hit you with that.
I'll bring it back for you. This is professional stuff we're doing here, man. Now, I can read the cues. It's a youth movement on defense. And you got rid of Jadeveon Clowney, who was your most productive player on defense at setting the edge and rushing the passer last year. Got rid of him to make way for the other guys. The other guys you're making way for cannot be Pat Jones, DJ Wanham only. It can't. It cannot. DJ Wanham had a few good reps. I thought that he looked okay. But you know my feeling on both of them, Curtis. Neither one of them are answers. They're holdovers, they're Band-Aids, they're bridges, whatever you want to call them, that I don't even know necessarily are doing enough of that warrants not just – if you're going to get beat, man, let's see what these young guys got. Let's let Nick Scorton play. Let's let Princely Umimielen play. When you don't give them reps, and Jay brought this up in the chat, he said something about the reps. I'll bring it up real quick. So I had to leave out, so excuse me if y'all already said it, but 26 snaps for Princely and Nick combined. It's wild. It is absolutely wild. You can't get into rhythm. You can't set up counters. You cannot really have an attack. You can't do any of those things if all you were doing is situational reps and you're only playing a series and then sitting on the bench for 3 or 4 more. I did see some sort of metric where Nick Scorton apparently had one of the quickest, if not the quickest, get off in the entire league coming off the edge at 0.6 seconds. Get off. That's one of those new NFL next gen stats. That's pretty remarkable for if that's the case, you're going to have a really hard sell about not playing him because we have no juice on the outside of our defensive front. We have no juice, man. That pocket that Trevor sat in all day was one of the most comfortable things I've ever seen. Hey, Edgar, how are you, man? Glad you're here. This is complimentary or positive Edgar. Oh, he's here for sassy Ricky. Don't be here for this. You're supposed to talk me off the ledge, man. Like, I will say this about Nick Scorton though. Had a couple run defense reps where he got cute and tried to go inside multiple times, bailed on the outside, went inside, and lost containment on the outside, and it resulted in plays. It resulted in yardage. So there is a learning curve there, but I'll live with that for the possibility of getting after the quarterback.
Exactly. And Canales said something today, like he just needs to go. Just go. I think that was the quote. Just go. So, but yeah, I mean, when they look this bad in the game, I'm all for let's see what these young guys got. Like they're the future anyway, so you might as well get these reps in. It's no different than let's play these guys in preseason. But that's besides the point.
By the way, can I break this thing up real quick and talk about this beer I just opened up?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is the Grotzer Oak Smoked Wheat Ale. It's called the Big Lebowski.
Oh, I love that can and the name.
But I'm gonna tell you something. This is from Divine Barrel Brewing here in Charlotte.
Does it taste like a White Russian?
No. I kind of feel like I'm drinking smoked Gouda right now, and I don't really like that.
That sounds like a beer I'd like.
Well, then you can come and have this cheese board, but this is a weird fucking thing, man, that's happening to my head right now. Okay, sorry. I just had to get that out there because I took like 2 sips and I was like, what is this taste that I'm tasting? Okay.
We got to talk about another guy on defense who I thought arguably probably had the worst game on Sunday and of his career, and that's not saying much because he's had a lot of bad games, if we're being real here. And that's Trevin Wallace, the 3rd-round pick out of Kentucky that left a lot of us scratching our head when they drafted him. Let's be real. And had analysts thinking, what are we doing here? So, and Dan Morgan has stuck his head out and has said he likes this guy. He likes his traits, thinks he's fast, whatever he wants to throw at him. But yet again, we see Trevin Wallace looking lost as hell in this game, and he's not even wearing the green dot. And you go to the play, Brenton Strange, and I thought this is where you're going to go with this earlier, when Brenton Strange caught the touchdown. And it's from my understanding of how a defense works, it looks like that was Trevin's area to cover when all was said and done. I know 21 did get some flack initially on that play, but it sounds like that was Trevin's zone to cover, and Brenton Strange is wide open on the play.
Yeah. What you don't really see in the you definitely didn't see it in the broadcast, but it's even off to the corner of the all 22, is that Scott is passed off the receiver on that side. He's passed off Brian Thomas Jr. from Mike Jack. He gets passed off onto him, and you'll see Brian Thomas Jr. come into the picture towards the tail end. Scott can't abandon that, or else Brian Thomas Jr. is ass naked wide open in the back of the end zone as well. But you also see Christian Roseboom pass off the tight end to Trevin Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
And Trevin Wallace is staring down the canyon of the play action. I mean, it almost looked like one of those memes where you see a sad person just staring in the ocean. Like he's just lifeless and staring and sad and lost and desperate. That was how Trevin played linebacker for some of that game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Or not yesterday. See, everything feels like it just happened. No, everything feels like it just happened to me, man. Like, it's still here, and now I'm drinking smoked Gouda. It's just, this is a weird night. This is weird what's happening. I'm going to change back to a yellow jacket. But yeah, that I think you made a good point. I'm glad that you brought that up, Curtis, that Nick Scott is going to get blamed for a lot of things because people already have a predetermined idea about him. And I'm good with the predetermined idea. Like, play Lathan Ransom, play Damani Richardson. Let's see what they have. We saw some rotations, some post-snap rotation that actually moved Shaw Smith-Wade back into safety.
And Lathan, I got a couple. I remember seeing him back there in a couple.
Lathan played a little bit.
It was late, though. It was way late.
He played a little bit. He just didn't play a lot, man. And, like, I just don't know how you go. First of all, you're giving up a lot of yardage on the ground. Lathan Ransom can help there, especially if you're going to use Trayvon Merrick in the box the way that you did, you know, as an additional linebacker.
What shocked me though, Ricky, is
Mhm.
Damani he didn't play a snap in this game, if I'm looking at these snap counts right. Like, and for a guy who was heavily involved at the tail end of last year and had some success, I mean, it wasn't like stellar by any means, but for an undrafted guy, it was a good amount. To not play a snap in this game, I don't understand the reasoning. They really like Nick Scott. That's crazy to me that, and it does not
Well,
make sense to me at
it
all.
may be a similar situation as what we have with Jimmy Horn right now, where the fan perception of these players is different than the team perception of the players, and that their ability to contribute right now may not be where fans think that it could be, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's fair to say when all training camp, all we heard
Damani
from the beat
Richardson. Yeah.
reporters was Damani Richardson. I don't feel like the beat's going to lie to us when they're at the practices seeing who's getting rolled out there. And that's why I was so taken aback when you saw Nick Scott at FanFest
Yeah.
starting. I'm like, all we heard about was Damani Richardson this entire camp, and all of a sudden he's back, and all of a sudden 21's back there. It just
When the
doesn't make
wording
sense to me.
and the wording about Damani was his confidence in his ability to communicate. And then they come out and they say that Nick Scott is playing because of his ability to communicate. And it's like, well, look, if they're even on that, we got to go with Damani, right? Like you got to go with at least the thumper that has a little bit of speed to him.
Yeah.
I think they really like Lathan. I think that Lathan has turned some heads. I think that he made his mark. And I think that if they're running these rotations where Shaw is going to see some work back there at safety, playing too high, I think that at that point, if you're talking about a platoon of safeties and the third guy off is going to be Lathan Ransom, I'm okay with that. But at some point, I want Lathan Ransom to be the starter over Nick Scott. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I would be okay rotating Damani in as the third safety that comes in and plays a little bit more, especially if we've seen a new trend in the NFL with them coming up with these like manufactured 5-man, 6-man fronts, but without sacrificing coverage players. So they're using linebackers and safeties to come up and they mug the line and they line up right on the outside of them. That's something that I think is one of the reasons we bring in a guy like Trayvon Merrick. I think that that's an ability to do that. The question is, we don't have a Jihad Campbell over on the other side that can kind of play that role for us. Do you bring in Nick Scorton, who was lauded for his movement in space and his drop back coverage, right? They talked about that a few times. The beat did in camp. I saw a couple reps in preseason where he looked pretty fluid and natural doing it. Maybe that's what you do over there. But we don't have a true off-ball backer that can come up and fill that role. But I do think that Trayvon and Lathan Ransom can absolutely add a man to that defensive front. You can start running some of these 5 or 6 while still having that post-snap flexibility to rotate back and not lose coverage players.
All right, let's talk. We briefly touched on JC Utah. I just wanted to talk about that interception because that was probably the highlight of the game for Carolina, and the one that they've been pushing out on social media pretty heavy. That's a whole nother conversation.
What else are you going to put out there?
Exactly. But he deserves some credit. Lots of it, honestly, because – man, when that guy is healthy on the field, he is a special player, and he doesn't make that pick. That broadcast is talking about Travis Hunter for the rest of the game, which they already had done at that point.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I don't even know who was covering on that, but JC, it looked like he peeled off his own guy. He saw it coming and just made one hell of a play. Jumped a couple feet in the air. I mean, it was incredible. That was outstanding. I think it was a top 5 play on Red Zone too that day. It made like top 3, and I'm like, holy shit, Carolina sucked ass, but they somehow made that rotation. But yeah, it was just a hell of a play. And I don't know if you saw the all 22 on that one of who was in coverage on Travis Hunter on that, like initially, because I couldn't see who it was.
I can't remember. I've watched the entire game twice, but I can't remember on that play.
Maybe Chad can help us out. But yeah, it was impressive as hell. And I know it's a lot of doom and gloom in this episode, so I'm trying to find a little sliver of some of these.
No, and that was a great play. That was a great play, and it was a great sign. I still think that we don't need to be super negative about the secondary in general in that game. I thought that the secondary played a pretty nice game, and I know that we don't like Nick Scott, but Nick Scott wasn't a liability in coverage that often. So, like, take the wins if they come, man. Like if you had a nice day in a position, take that win, because that second level is going to drive you nuts all year. It's going to drive you nuts all damn year. Turk Wharton was tough. Let's talk about what Edgar said here. Curtis, I kind of want to get your opinion on this. He says, remains to be said that it's hard to be developmental defensive coordinator if you're on the hot seat. Evero doesn't have time to wait for a guy to develop. What's your thoughts on that? Because for me, and maybe this is what Canales was trying to almost insinuate a little bit, right, this week when he was like, yeah, I told Ev, or I'd like to see these guys play, or I suggested it, and I'll be a little bit more firm about suggesting it or something like that. And people got really bent out of shape about that too, saying, hey, you're the head coach. If you want the guy to play, tell him to play. Yeah. But it's been pretty obvious since Canales got here that
he's letting
Evero, this is his
on that side.
That's his orchestra, right? Like he's the composer. He wants him to write that song. He doesn't really want to be doing it.
To Edgar's comment here, I agree with that in a sense, but I also get the sense that honestly, maybe I guess Evero really cares, but if he gets canned, you don't think this guy's going to probably get an opportunity somewhere else? I do, just off of the name alone. So does he feel that pressure to put out those guys? Maybe. I don't know. I just don't see the reasoning behind not playing a guy like Lathan Ransom, who you drafted and has had good tape so far. So I don't know. I'm kind of in between on that, because I do think if Evero gets canned, I don't think he's going to have trouble finding home. I don't. There've been numerous teams out there, and they might make the excuse Carolina's a shithole, and you're just not going to succeed there. And Evero, that's the reason why he's stuck in.
Yeah.
We also got to remember they haven't drafted a defensive player in 3 or 4 years in the first round, and got rid of their best edge rusher in Brian Burns. So there's things that I'm sure other teams are like, no, it's a shithole there. He can't get out of that dumpster fire. He'll be fine here. So I don't know. I'm kind of in between on that. I see where you're coming from here. And, if he thinks he doesn't have a shot anywhere else, maybe I don't know. It's tough to say. It really is.
He's got a lot of respect in league circles, it seems like.
Yeah.
His name is always spoken about very favorably. But I think that for this team, it's a disservice. Regardless of what he feels about his seat, I think that he would get, from this team looking at him, right? If you're not willing to play these guys and the production and the team performance suffers because of you being stubborn with the vets, that's going to get you fired more than anything. Because then they're going to look at it and say you didn't even give it a chance to show your chops as a coach and develop these young players that have bigger, better tools than these veterans that you swear by and that you just have to stick by. If that is your philosophy as a coach, it doesn't work with our overall philosophy as a developmental team. So I think that if Evero is unwilling to adapt, because I think Edgar's probably right? This is something that Evero is more comfortable playing veterans. We've seen it in his tenure.
Well, and I think he's right that he's on the hot seat. I don't think there's any denying.
But I don't know if he comes back. I mean, what does it take to? Well, that's a whole different thing. We don't have to do that today. I was going to say, what does it even take to bring him back at this point? You'd have to have a really good defense. And from what we saw, and now Turk Wharton being injured, I find it really hard to believe that you're going to find a really good defense at the end of this season in Carolina.
I know we're going down this rabbit hole, but of course he's going to say, no coach is going to say I'm on the hot seat.
He's hot. You're hot.
Yeah, it's very hot. And there was questions at the end of last season, is Evero going to stick around? And up to this point, we all know that Canales he's a big fan of Evero. That's pretty damn clear.
Or at least of the system.
Yes.
At least of that defensive system.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if he's a big fan of Evero or not, but I think he's a big fan of that system.
So, I mean, we'll see how things play out. Another guy I wanted to talk about on defense was you touched on Trevon Wharton. I thought, Is that, am I
Tershawn.
saying it? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting guys mixed up here. Tershawn Wharton. Apologize.
Just
I
call
thought
him
he,
Turk, man. Big Turk.
I thought he had a hell of a game before he got injured. Do
Yeah.
you agree with that? Like, I
Yeah.
thought he was in on, I mean, he was flying around. It
Yep.
seemed like he was in on every play.
Yeah. It looks powerful. They lined him up over the tight end and kind of let him overpower as a mismatch in that regard. But then you also saw like they weren't afraid of using him a little bit inside as well. That's what it's kind of what you saw in Kansas City, right? What the Spagnuolo did with him is that he's a little bit of a versatile player. He can use his quickness and his leverage from the interior against those bigger, slower, less athletic linemen. But then he's got incredible strength for his relatively compact size for a defensive lineman. I mean, he's like 6'1", 290 pounds, 285 pounds. Like it's not an overpowering physique, but it's damn near 90% of it's in the lower half. And dude's all tree trunks, man. And I think you saw what their plan was, what their intent behind signing him. And I think it shows you why they went after Milton Williams as much as they did. They want that guy that can be quick and aggressive on the defensive line because they've got Bobby Brown, they've got Derek Brown, they've got Ashawn Robinson. They needed a switch up in pace. And I think that's what Turk was supposed to provide. I think that's a big loss for us, man. I hope that it's only a 2 or a 3 week thing as opposed to the 4. They didn't put him on IR, which insinuates to me that they think that they have a chance to get him back before the 4 weeks, or else they would have just thrown him on there and they would have called somebody up. So yeah, I hope that he's back sooner than later. Think he's going to be pretty dang good. I also, since we're talking about people that we added, Bobby Brown, I thought had a nice game. I thought Bobby Brown looked good. I saw him getting pretty good push on snaps on a regular basis. He had linemen the minute that he got his paws on him, he'd drive him back a yard or two. He changed the line of scrimmage in his alignment multiple times. I thought he was aggressive. He didn't give up on plays. Him and Derek Brown, I think, could be a lot of fun this season. I really like the combination of those two. They're very similar body sizes and they're very similar strength, man. It was great to see Derek out there again too. That's a shining spot, I think, for this team. Derek Brown's phenomenal, and he's just so much fun to watch play, man. So Derek Brown and Bobby Brown, I think you can build off of those two. I hope Turk is back soon. Get the young edge players, get the young safety out there, and see if they can't bring some juice to the defense.
We got to talk real quick. I just want to get your take because I know this is a guy that we've given you shit about. Smith Wade, quick thoughts on what you saw from him.
I mean, not a ton. I thought that he played okay. I thought that in the run game, I saw him take a kind of lazy angle on one play that he was a little bit late getting in. I don't know that he would have made the play anyways. He is a pretty physical player and a willing tackler. So I didn't think that he was like, soft by any means. I think that the rotating him back at safety was an interesting wrinkle. I think that one of the beat reporters mentioned that. It might have been Mike Kay. Might have said that during the season or during the camp that they were rotating him and that he even got some action back there at safety. Thought that was interesting, but I didn't see a whole lot because I didn't see a whole lot of testing from that Jacksonville offense, man. So remains to be seen how impactful he can be. We saw other nickels across the league really make an impact. So I'm still hopeful that Shaw can be that. I didn't think he looked bad, and I didn't think he looked good. I thought he was just kind of there, and that may be more to do with the approach by the Jaguars than a knock on Shaw Smith-Wade. What'd you think?
Kind of like you, honestly. I thought he didn't make anything noticeable, but I don't think he made any like crucial mistake that I was like, what the hell? So I was just kind of in the middle on it, and I agree with you. I don't think Jacksonville took too many shots. I mean, let's be real. I think Trevor Lawrence didn't look that great, if we're being honest.
He didn't. And that's what pisses me off so much about this game, Curtis. This game could have been won.
Mm-hmm.
That Jacksonville team didn't whoop us, man. They beat us on the scoreboard, but dude, we could have won that football game. You clean up some of the bullshit, man, and you don't come out so flat. I think you got a really good chance of stealing that one. And it's like that Dennis Green clip, right? They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. Like I thought that this was a game that they could win. I hope that they bring the energy that I anticipated them bringing next week to Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even talk about how Liam Cohen had those boys more prepared than I just opened up a can of worms.
Yeah. I will say this too, though, man. That Liam Cohen, he's a pretty intelligent offensive coach, man.
Yeah.
They did some pretty cool things on offense. I thought that their run game was pretty exquisite. What they did with it. The motion that they bring, the way that they use their players, the way that they get advantages, I want to see so much more of that from our offense, man. Like it bums me out when we play against teams that do creative, innovative, new stuff. And all I'm looking at is, so it's first down, we'll run, probably out of shotgun. Second down, we'll probably run, probably out of shotgun. I think we ran, 8 plays, 12 plays under center, 12 out of 65 or 67. That ain't good. That ain't good. Like you get Bryce Young under center, man. You open up play action, open up boots for him, right? Let him use his legs, get some design stuff out there for his legs. And we just didn't do it, dude. We didn't move the pocket at all. That was one of my most disappointing things. I thought that was something that we saw really big success with Bryce Young. And it just looked like they forgot everything on our offensive side. And it looked like Cohen was going to get that Jaguars team in some really fruitful positions this year.
All right, well, let's get into the matchup this weekend. Carolina on the road, back-to-back weeks, going into Arizona to face the Cardinals. We will be doing our parlay at the end of the episode, so stick around for that. Place your bets on that. But, Ricky, why don't you fire away? We're going to get in our statistically.
Nice little intro video. I was muted there when I was telling you guys about the nice, nifty new little intro video. But now that I've unmuted myself, let's get into this thing. All right. So these are obviously 1 week statistics, right? Try to make it in a digestible format for everybody. These are from NFL Next Gen Stats on NFL Pro. Points per game, we scored 10. That's 29th in the league. Passing yards per game, we had 142, 27th in the league. Rushing yards, we had 113. That was good for 14th, so middle of the pack. EPA, that's estimated points added per attempt, per pass attempt. 30th at negative 0.55. EPA per rushing attempt, we came in at 17th with a negative 0.01. And then the percentage of times that we threw the ball as opposed to running the ball, threw the ball 59%. That came in at a 15th mark in the league, so right around league average. You see a couple things there that were league average, right? The rushing yards per game, EPA per rushing attempt, and then the pass percentage. Kind of speaks to game flow, kind of speaks to effectiveness. That Jaguar defense was susceptible to the run. I wish that we'd have done a little bit more there. Anything stand out here? I mean, look, this is a 1 week thing. So, like, these are all the things that we already saw happen. So none of this is surprising to me, right? It kind of lines up with the way that I thought we looked.
I honestly didn't realize that they had over 100 yards rushing, if you want me to be honest. I didn't think they eclipsed that mark. And I think the game kind of dictated this, but I thought they kind of got away from the run a little bit once the game started getting out of hand. And we kind of noticed that from Canales too last year when there were times to keep in it and stick to that. Because I remember, I think we complained about that last year where they're like, it was manageable and then he felt like the game was out of reach, so it was just passing the whole time. So I think that is something, too, that I kind of hope they get back to this week because I do think, Chuba is viable there. And I do think there was times even this past week that Rico had some good runs. They even mixed an ETN there late. So, I hope they take advantage of that because Chuba had a very good game last year against Arizona late in the season.
Just want to see him get more creative with it, too. All right, so the basic defensive stats for the game gave up 26 points. That was 24th in the league. Passing yards, they only gave up 178. That's the 13th best in the league, Mark. Rushing yards per game, there it is. There's the big 200 that we're all used to seeing for the Carolina Panthers. 30th in the league, which is crazy that two other teams allowed more rushing yards. One of them was the Buffalo Bills, who Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson just ran ruckshot over them on that awesome Sunday night football game. I am so sick and tired of my ritual on Sundays being suffering through Panthers football and then watching incredible football for the rest of Sunday. EPA per pass attempt on defense, negative 0.01. That's 17th in the league. EPA per rush, here's a bad mark, plus 0.21. That is 28th in the league. So, I mean, when you're giving up a fifth of a point every time that they run the ball, right? This is an efficiency metric. But that's saying that, like, teams could run on you and they're just going to get it, right? You're a tenth of a point away from them never having to throw the ball, basically, if you do the percentage there. They only threw the ball 49.2% of the time. Part of that is because of that EPA per rush. They really had a good time running the football on us. They were dangerous running inside on us, I thought. I thought that was one of their more effective areas of running were those inside gap runs. They ran some duos that I thought worked well. But again, Liam Cohen is a really good facilitator and creator for offense. I had hoped that with us having familiarity with him against the Buccaneers twice last season, might have had an inside track of doing some things smartly to counteract some of his attack. But yeah, that's the defense in a nutshell. And the passing yards per game, again, it's really nice, man. I think that they limited that attack. And I was worried about that attack, man. I was worried about Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, same. I'm just disappointed, though. And I know we talked about the 70-yard run. It was the one big chunk play. But this rush defense was supposed to be solid this year. Like, it was supposed to have improvement. This is not improvement. I mean, this is bottom of the league you looking statistically. It's bottom of the league. And you spent heavily in the inside. And I know you didn't get your big fish, the big Marlin and Milton Williams. You didn't get them. But you still got the consolation prize and a couple other guys. And this team, yet again, has struggled against the run. And this weekend is not going to be any easier because James Conner looked pretty damn good in that first week in Arizona. So
I'll say this too.
That's the thing that disappointed me the most. Because
no doubt.
I think all of us on the show have talked about, like, there's no doubt this team is going to improve with the run defense. And here we are week one talking about a 200-yard game.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Or 200-yard game, excuse me.
Yeah, and they would have still been in like the 22nd, 23rd range, even if they had only given up, 20 yards on that run as opposed to 75 or 71, whatever it is. They still would have been in the
but I still would have taken that. Like, that's
for sure.
From going,
but it shows you, it does show you how much that run also affected the statistical production there.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. I saw something from Edgar earlier. Oh, funny. I was rewatching the Panthers Cardinals game last year and Arizona was down 20-3 in quarter 2. And they came back with their run game. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, we were so susceptible on the ground that teams didn't even have to throw when they were down. They're like, well, look, we can still just run over them and score pretty quick. Let's just keep it going. I thought that our run defense was a little bit more competent than that. That big 70-yarder did make a difference. And Arizona had a decent game against New Orleans. They looked fine, but I didn't think that they looked like world beaters either in that regard. Mm-hmm. I do think there will be some added elements of their home opener. We kind of put an end or a kibosh to their playoff push last year, and I think that there's going to be a revenge factor there.
We got Trey McBride and
and the Trey McBride thing worries me, man. What do you do with that? Because Brenton Strange, they were leaking out to Brenton Strange, and they were having success with that. Trey McBride is a better
Strange.
right. That's Brenton Strange. We're talking about Trey McBride. That's a bigger threat for me. So you got to figure that they're game plan for that. Marvin Harrison Jr., also a good football player, and then of course, like you brought up, James Conner and Trey Benson and Kyler Murray. I want to talk a little bit about him either, because I think that's an element that we should bring up.
Hold on, while we're just talking on that, the one thing I think could give them an advantage, but it probably won't because it's the Panthers, is Roseboom. I mean, he played Arizona twice a year last year, so he has some familiarity there. Maybe he can have some little tips maybe for some of these guys. And I know Carolina played them last year too.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to hold out some damn hope.
No, I like that. I love it. But also, like you said, though, and Bobby Brown, he'll know about the offensive, block schemes and stuff like that. But we also have players that were just playing the familiarity of having played them at the end of last season and then playing them early this season, a little bit fresher on your mind than if, an entire calendar year had gone by and you're playing them again. So it is a little bit of a weird creative advantage that we're in this situation because it's not a typical situation. So for some of these keys, let's look at it. These are some things that stood out to me for the Panthers that I either want to see focus on improving and incorporating more, or these are things that I just am entirely concerned about. And I'm going to be sick to my stomach, I think, for the entire year about. The play action percentage for the Carolina Panthers on offense. The offense is over here on the blue side. Defense is over there in the gray. 11.1% of the play calls we utilize play action. That's a significant problem for me, man. Like we talked about, even if you're not a big time run team, which the Carolina Panthers are and should be, you want play action, man. This is how you create advantages. This is how you get defenses to make mistakes and have to account for things and get a second or two window that you can engineer an opening, as opposed to having to bet on somebody not doing well at their position and at their role. That's 30th in the league. I know it was one game, but man, they got to increase that. They have got to figure out a way to do better at that. Yards after the catch. This was a hot button that we talked about while Curtis figures out what to do here with this screen. This was a hot button that we talked about all of last year and the year before that, right? And we talked about needing to get better after the catch when we had the rock in our hands. What do you do? Can you get explosive playmakers? We had 64 yards after the catch. That's 27th in the league. There were teams that had triple that in one game that had 180 yards. And yeah, sir, they've got dynamic players, but this Carolina team has got to figure something out there, man. And I don't know if it's getting XL more involved in certain looks. It can't be the screen stuff. XL is not going to get up to full speed and do what you are hoping he's going to do with his 4.29 or 4.31, whatever speed. He's not going to do that in close quarters. Needs a ramp up, needs a runway. I'm going to bring this back for a second, Curtis, to a conversation that you and I and Bryson had earlier on in the preseason and the offseason, where I said I think XL should be returning kicks. And everyone looked at me like I was crazy, and they're like, you can't have XL returning kicks. He's your number 2 receiver. He's going to have such a huge role on offense. What if he doesn't? What if you need to build some confidence in Xavier Legette? What if you need Xavier Legette to be a playmaker and a difference maker for your team? Why is special teams not important? Like, if this is going to be a surefire way to get the ball in his hands with some open grass so that he can gallop and get to speed, why is that not an opportunity for him to get a little momentum and confidence built? This team needs a jolt. And what I would do right now, if I was Dave Canales and I was Brad Idzik and I was sitting down there and I was like, all right, so what do we do here, boys? I would start taking every single thing that I saw and I would throw it against the wall and find out what stuck. And I think you'd have a hard sell telling me that Xavier Legette in open space and having his size, his profile, getting some of those kickoff return responsibilities, that would be something I would try. Curtis, you shot me down when I brought it up a long time ago. What say you now?
I was just about to ask you. I like ETN back there, dude. I do. But I also like Jimmy Horn. Like, I think Jimmy Horn adds a speed element that none of those guys offer. I shouldn't say Legette isn't fast, but
ain't all that quick though. Like, he ain't all that quick of fast.
Horn has got a different gear to him. So like, but I do like ETN in the return game. I do. I thought he had some solid, probably more. I'm torn, but I do like him in the return game. I'm still out on Legette because and I get it.
If he gets hurt, we lose 10 yards a game, and we don't want to lose that. That could really put us behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, but you're talking about you're comfortable rolling out.
I ain't comfortable rolling out
Tedero McMillan, Hunter Renfrow, and David Moore, or Tedero McMillan, Bryson Tremaine, and Hunter Renfrow. You're comfortable with that? No. I'm sure as hell not.
No, I'm not comfortable with it. No, I'm not comfortable.
Give me Legette over him.
Look, and I'm being facetious when I say some of the stuff about Xavier Legette because I'm not out on him. Like, that one game doesn't make me think that Xavier Legette can't play football and that he's not going to be able to figure out an impactful way to benefit this football team. But I am saying that if it ain't working from the receiver standpoint,
let's get a spark.
If it's just not working, dude, figure out some other way to use him. Yeah. Like, if you've got a dull knife in the house, you probably don't want to try to cut onions with it, right? You'd be sitting there crying all over yourself all day. But if you got a locked car that you got to try to jimmy through, guess what? I'm going to take that dull fucking knife and I'm going to use it for that. There are other ways to use a tool than just the only blatant obvious way to use it.
Folks, people need to pump the brakes. He's 17 games into his career, 18 games. Let's slow it down a little bit.
Okay. Hey, I want it to work too, but I'm just saying I'm not comfortable with any of it. So I'm comfortable with the idea of trying to do what I need to get something out of it.
Yeah.
Team run stuffed rate for us on offense, 18%. That was 11th best in the league. The reason I bring that up is for what we talked about earlier, specifically that 4th and 1 from the 5, specifically other short yardage situations. I hope that Dave Canales stops ordering donuts before the game. Do things simple and straightforward that can still be enjoyable. You don't need the pastry around it. It is still going to make you a happy camper without the ring around it. Like, just
Were you shocked by the stat? And it came up early in the game, and I don't know where they landed by the end, but they were really successful on third down. Carolina was early on. I mean, they were like 4 of 5 to start the game, which that's something Carolina has struggled with in the past. And that number just kind of threw me off because obviously they didn't put up points, so it didn't matter. I think the turnovers kind of hurt that, but that stat was just weird to me when I saw that in the broadcast of how well they looked on third down, at least early on.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm shocked by that because I think that what they did in those situations, first of all, they were in shorter third down situations then.
Yeah.
If you notice at the beginning of the game, they weren't in those third and medium, third and long type of situations. They had 3rd and 2s, they had 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 3s. Those are the manageable situations that you want to be in, right? I think that's the area you want to live in. If you have to be at third down, you want 3rd and short. The whole playbook is at your disposal on 3rd and short, right?
Yeah.
When you're longer, you've got a smaller circle on your call card that you're looking at and you're saying, all right, these are our options. We got to deploy one of these, and you got to hope that everything goes well. So no, I wasn't surprised by the beginning because I thought that they put themselves in better opportunities. But I didn't like the way they did it later. All right. Should we look at the defense?
Let's do it.
Defensive keys. Quarterback pressure rate, 18.2%. Worst in the league. Worst in the league. It is something that we have been saddled by in Carolina. Even with Brian Burns, it was only Brian Burns, right? But wasn't it a lot of fun? I mean, how does everyone feel with that whole grass is greener situation with Brian Burns, just for a second? How do you feel about not having a guy that can get 9 or 10 sacks a year? Everyone's like, that's not enough. You remember that conversation? There was really a conversation that was happening about, like, I don't know that 10 sacks is enough per year. Like, that's just not good enough. I would look, man, there ain't much I wouldn't do.
Get 8.
You can't even get 8. You can't even get 7 from your edge players. That quarterback pressure rate, it's got to change. If Nick Scorton and Princely Umamielen are the medicine that you take to get better and get there with that number, you put them in. I know that you might sacrifice a little bit in way of edge setting, in way of familiarity, conceptual understanding with the veteran players, with the Pat Jones, who, by the way, I mean, Pat Jones has only been here this is his first year. How much further ahead is he than some of these other guys in their ability to play this playbook, right? Now, his NFL experience is vastly different, and he can go back and he can use that. But when we're talking about a guy like Nick Scorton, we're talking about a guy like Princely Umamielen, there is zero reason to tell me that the threat of getting some pressure at a quarterback isn't worth maybe sacrificing a little bit of setting edge integrity. DJ Johnson played more reps, for crying out loud. Like, we cannot have that. You cannot have this any longer of prioritizing that and leaving these guys on the bench and leaving quarterbacks to feel the most comfortable they have ever felt in an NFL game playing against the Carolina Panthers. Don't like it. To tie into that, let's look at the blitz rate here. 24.2% of the time they sent extra. Part of that is because of what we saw all last year. They can't generate pressure with their front, so they have to send extra guys to try to get there. I'm not mad at blitzing. I'd like to blitz even more. I would like to see different looks, different pre-snap looks, though, on some of these blitzes. You watch what Brian Flores does. You watch what even Fangio did with those, I guess they're called simulated 5 or 6 man fronts. I don't really know what the right terminology is, the way that they're doing that. But these guys are given different looks. They're trying different things. Mike McDonald, what he had that Seahawks defense looking like, man. I want that. If Evero is this really respected, really revered defensive coordinator, I want to start seeing something out of this defense that at least gives me hope that they're not just going to be this bend but don't break. And I know that's the biggest overall conceptual like backbone of the system, but there can be intricate ways that you go about that. We did see
the execution needs to be better too with the like some of these blitzes of these guys, they just need to learn how to tee it up and time it better. Like it just seems like these guys are just hitting stone walls here every time they're coming in. And JC Horn is one of the only capable blitzers we got, and he's your best corner. Yeah. So like I think some of these guys, they need to become better blitzers too. Like these guys are just it's so easy.
Yeah.
So easy.
Well, and think of the combinations that you're doing stuff with too, right? Because I saw a play where they blitzed Trevin from the linebacker position, but next to him, his running mate in the concept was DJ Johnson. And DJ was just kind of plodding around like he does. And Trevin did what he did and kind of veered off from the straight line. He did approach, he did crash, he tried to get through and use his power to bull rush, get into the chest of the offensive lineman. He tried to. The offensive lineman took a step back, but then he redirected him. And when he redirected him into the giant rock of DJ Johnson. And Trevin Wallace ended up looking like a toddler being sat down for drawing on the walls. He was sitting on his rear end, just looking up at the offensive lineman and be like, my bad. I don't know why I did that. You know, like, I got paper. I should have drawn on the paper. I'm sorry for drawing on your walls. Ezra Cleveland, interior offensive lineman. I hate it, man. It is grinding my gears to see this Panthers defense, to see this uniform on the defensive side look as soft and just hopeless as they look sometimes. It hurts.
Yeah, the exotic looks, there needs to be more of that. And I don't know how much, and I didn't pay too much attention to it, how much Merrick blitzed this past game because I thought they'd kind of deploy him that way, and how successful that really was. Obviously, it wasn't because they didn't get any pressure, any sacks or anything like that. But that's how I thought they were going to kind of deploy him. I know they like Smith Wade in that role too a little bit, and I think I remember him had a blitzer too.
He did, yeah. Not overly
and
effective.
They need to utilize 7 in that role, and they need to make it exotic where it's not you show one guy coming and it's coming from the like they need to. That definitely needs to change in Evero. It's too simplistic.
And send him and send it though. Like that's what I'm talking about with the personnel of these ideas though. Send him on a blitz from the outside with Scorton over on the side or Princely. So that if a defender or you need
blocker, those guys to play to do that.
Yeah. but like that's what you got to do though, man. Make a threat. When you got DJ Johnson or Pat Jones, like that's not the same threat, man. Like make somebody put somebody in conflict to make a decision. Mm-hmm. Yards after contact per rush attempt. I think that this is important because we're about to play one of the more physical running backs in the NFL, and James Conner. Once again, we gave up 3.93 yards after contact per rush attempt, 24th in the league. It's just too much. It just the tackling woes continue. Fundamentals, basics, all the things that they preach, they show up. Like if these guys can see it, I just wish they could coach it, man. So yeah, these are my keys for the game. Curtis, anything you want to add to this?
No.
You can tell I'm getting fed up just talking about it.
Yeah, you are. I'm loving it.
It just sucks, man. I've been looking forward to Panthers.
What happened? It's role reversal. You're the -1. I'm
no, man. I'm not out. I'm just bummed out because I had such high hopes for that game, and now I'm reliving the game, looking at it, and I'm like, this team is. Okay, so here's Mr. Positivity. This team is better than that performance on Sunday. I truly believe that. This team is better, man. And I need them to nut up or shut up. Time to show it, right? All right, look at the Cardinals offense. They played the New Orleans Aints down there in the Bayou. They scored 20 points on them. That was tied for 15th best in the league in week 1. They threw the ball for 130 yards. That was 30th. So they didn't do a whole lot of chucking that thing around. Rushing yards, they put up 120. That's 8th. Crazy that, right? 8th best in the league was a 120. We gave up 200. EPA per pass attempt plus 0.01. So relatively efficient, about middle of the league there at 15th. EPA per rush attempt tied for 13th at 0. And then their pass percentage, they threw the ball a little bit more than what we saw, what we faced. They threw the ball 55.7% of the times, and that was good for 20th mark. Anything stand out there to you, Curtis? Anything you want to talk about?
The one thing, and I was reading up on this, and this can be an advantage to Carolina, is the Saints got to Kyler Murray. I think they had like 3 or 4 sacks. It might have been even more than that.
See, now you're trying to talk about one of my keys here, Curtis.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. No, but you're right. You're right. The interesting thing about that is that their quarterback pressure rate wasn't very exemplary. It was like 18% or something, which was in like the 20s. It wasn't significant. It wasn't like a glaring thing, but they had the second most sacks allowed at 5.
It was 5. Okay, I was
5.
So that's even worse than what I thought.
Right. So that is an area though that you're like, hey, when a team
that's struggling to get it back. Yeah.
And when a team's sack percentage is higher than the quarterback pressure rate, that may even mean that when you got a scrambling quarterback, right, like Kyler Murray, may even be a situation where he kind of goes into some potential sacks and runs himself into trouble.
Yep.
And what you do there is a little bit of schematic work to try to facilitate some of that, right? A little bit of disguise, schematic work.
That ain't happening.
No, it's gonna happen. Come on, man. Come on now. Come on. All right. So let's go to the defensive side here for these shitbirds. Points per game, they give up 13 to Spencer Rattler and the gang. That was tied for 6th in the league. Look, if Spencer Rattler, though, if he found that little bit of success, right? He threw it for 208 yards. Passing yards, that's 19th in the league. Rushing yards, they allowed 107 rushing yards. That was 17th. EPA per pass on defense, 0.08 negative mark, of course. EPA per rush, 0.12 on the positive side of things. That's 25th in the league. So tells you there that they're susceptible a little bit to the run. That's nice to hear. But hey, we did this. Do you remember this when we did this segment last year, Curtis? All last year, we would do these numbers and we'd see these other teams' defense, and they were like 25th, 27th, 28th against the run in all the metrics, right? And teams were just running all over them. Then we came out, we threw it 65% of the time. I need that
every
to change.
freaking game.
I need that to change this year, man. Like if we're already this frustrated, we need that to change. Joe here in the comments, I love this, says, why do we always have to beg these coaches to use common sense? My God, we're sitting here talking about the schematics and all this stuff. And you're right, Joe. Thank you for saying it. Because sometimes we get this weird feeling, man, when like fans and content people, when we talk about this team, I don't think for a second we know more than the people in that building on Mint Street. I don't believe that. Not for the slightest little bit. So why is it that we can say something here on this internet, on this free internet, Al Gore's internet? Why is it that we can say something and it make a whole lick of sense? And if we deploy it, we do it the right way, it would work because other teams have shown that it works for them. And then the Panthers are just sort of like, yeah, I don't know. What if we just really tried to trick them and just went right into their strength? Like, you know what I mean? Like if David and Goliath, what instead of like a slingshot, what if he'd have been like, maybe I challenge him to an arm wrestling match for all the marbles? Like, no, man. Like, you got to use what you got, man. All right, let's get into the keys. Offensively, yards after contact per rush attempt, 3.34, tied for 11th. So that's one of the reasons I brought that up, right? We give up 3.93. They average 3.34. That's tied for 11th best in the league in the week 1, which means that they are a physical break tackle type of running approach. That is something to monitor because that is a problem area for Nick Scott and Trevin Wallace. I'm going to just go ahead and say that in the open for everyone to remember that I said that, because if there are missed tackles, we could talk about that next week on the show. Play action percentage, they ran at 26.5% of the time. That's tied for 10th most. That worries me as well, because I don't know if you saw Trevin in coverage or if you saw his diagnostic ability or his processing speed.
Good luck.
And we have seen Nick Scott give up stuff on the back end of the defense. We've seen him give up explosives. I will say this, though. Communication-wise, they seemed a little bit better this past week. So, you know, hey, maybe we'll be all right there. Maybe we have some opportunities to blitz if they run play action that much. If you could get him to turn his back, if you could time it well and you can get reads on formations and tendencies and things like that, if we can kind of hammer out some of that, maybe get a really nicely timed blitz on the outside, maybe from Trevin Merrick or maybe from Shaw Smith-Wade, and you take advantage of some of that. There's the big one that you were talking about. Team sacks allowed, 5, 31st in the league. Second most, 5 sacks surrendered. Let's get us one.
This is the week they'll have a big old 0 on there.
No, let's go out and get us one. Let's get Nick Scorton. Nick Scorton, I want you to have 1.5 to 2 sacks in this game. DJ Wanham. I think this is a DJ Wanham opportunity. If I would love to see DJ Wanham and Nick Scorton play more reps together than any other duo. I think that would be a lot of fun. I think you should move around on different sides. That's how I would approach the pass rush. Quarterback pressure rate for their defense tied for 20th at 28.6%. Not great, not terrible. Their rookie edge, Jordan Birch, had a 40% quarterback rush win rate. Top 5 in the NFL week 1. That is the big fella, played for Oregon, started his career at South Carolina. Very, very big athletic specimen that will be something to monitor. Yards after catch allowed, 96. They allowed 17th. Now, I will say this, though. When you saw how often they were thrown against, let's look at that again. On defense, 68.1% of the offensive plays for the Saints were throw. That was 4th most in the league. Only allowing 96, which is 17th in the NFL, shows that they were relatively efficient in their tackling. Because you would think that if they had the 4th most passes thrown against them, right, and they completed most of those, you would think that they would be in opportunities where they're giving up yardage. So that's a good and bad type of situation. And when you got the 1 game sample, it's really hard to decipher which one is which, right? I think we should test that. I think that we should get guys in space and see what we can work out this week. I'd like to see ETN involved out of the backfield a little bit as a pass catcher. Team run stuffed rate for them, 9.1%, tied for 28th. So let's tie it back again to what we talk about. This is what we do on this segment. We've been talking all night about things that we would do and things that we saw, things that we didn't see. Get under center, run power offense, run heavy personnel, and do what this team struggles to defend. Just do it. And if that doesn't work, then you try something else. But it also sets up your play action, which only did 11.1% of the time, 28th in the league. It also sets up some just regular shots, man. Take some vertical shots to T-Mac on some heavy personnel. Curtis, your thoughts now that statistically speaking has ended for the first week?
Yeah, it's what we said all last year. Run the damn ball. It's that simple. Run the damn ball. And then you can play off of that with the play action. And, it was funny, Ricky, that you even brought that stat up because that was something Bryson came over and watched a game this past weekend. That was the one thing we said. I couldn't remember when there was a play action pass in that game, honestly. And I remember telling that to Bryson. He's like, yeah, I don't know if there was 1 or 2 in this game. Like it was not a lot.
Well, look at it. If they ran 65 plays and 11% of them were play action, then you had what, 6?
Yeah.
5?
So it's just, that's something you hope to see in this one. There's a lot of things we hope to see in this game. And sometimes it just leaves you scratching your head and I agree with you. It's like the most obvious thing to us, it's like they try to out-trick them in this game, and it just stick to what they're not good at and what you should be good at, and then work off of that. So I really hope that comes to fruition in this game. I agree with you, though. I think they need to take advantage of ETN. Did they run a running back screen in this game? You remember how Carolina used to run running back screens all the damn time? It's more wide receiver screens with this team than it is running backs.
I thought that they did one. I seem to recall that they ran one, but I could also be thinking of the Chuba Hubbard touchdown, which wasn't exactly a screen. It was more of like a little wheel route, leak outside route. So no, maybe not.
That's something I'd like to see. Getting some of those guys out and those linemen out in space, I think could be good and just pancake the shit out of some players.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's what Robert Hunt does well, right? And look, if you get Icky back this week, that's also an area of Icky's strength, getting him out in space, let him kind of grade for you. So, yeah, I would love to see that drawn up this week.
And I don't know if this is, I didn't pay attention later in the game, but I I remember pointing this out early in that Jacksonville matchup. They were running a lot to the right side, to Taylor Moton's side, and they were having success. And I felt like they kind of got away from that later in the game, and they were running more to Yosh's side. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like they were getting chunks in that early part of that game.
One of the things yeah, they were. That's a great point, and I would like to see them kind of stick with that, right? One of the things that we didn't talk about that I said that I wanted to, so I feel bad that I didn't bring it up. Let's do it real quickly. Kyler Murray and his legs. Last year against the Carolina Panthers, he had 63 yards rushing and a touchdown. 20 of that came from his bootleg scramble for a touchdown. But still 43, otherwise just scrambling. He also picked up 4 first downs, which was the most first downs accounted for on his legs last year. The 63 yards was his third highest rushing total of the year last year. The second highest was 64, so it's not like he was far off of it. So he had a effective day scrambling against us last year. I do worry about that wrinkle against this team as well. So that is a place where I didn't highlight that in the keys or anything like that, because I just kind of wanted to give it its own attention. That's something that I am going to be really monitoring and seeing how they defend against that this year.
Yeah, that's always my fear with this defense last couple of years. And, we saw Trevor Lawrence, even he scored a touchdown. Didn't he? Or no, he might have gotten a first down. I can't remember, but he broke one right up the middle on a run, and Kyler's way more elusive than he is. So, yeah, that's always a big concern. And then a team that just hasn't had great tackling so far. So, that'll be something to watch. Why don't we do a prediction here, and then we'll get into our bets? So what do you think kind of
You'll make me go first?
Yeah, I'm going to make you go first. Go ahead.
Oh, man. I'm thinking. I didn't do any kind of thought on this beforehand, because I thought that once we did statistically speaking and got all of the hatred and vile spew out of me earlier in the night, that I might be back at a place where I'm willing to walk back out on the limb. I think I'm close. I think I'll go.
Don't you dare. You can't talk all that shit and be like, hey, yeah, they're going to win.
I could, though. I'm going to go 22 to 28 or 27, 22-27 Cardinals.
I'm going to go lower than that, I think. I'm going to go 2013 Arizona. So
you think we hold them to 20 points?
Yeah, I guess I do. Here we are, Ricky. I made the prediction.
I like it. No, that's good. That's cool.
And I want to know, and I usually check this before, and
if we only score 13 points, that's an ugly game for us, right?
It's terrible.
So you anticipate this being another rough offensive game? You don't think there's a bounce back for the offense?
I'm worried, Ricky. I'm worried.
Are you worried about Bryce Young?
I'm worried about Bryce Young, and I'm still kind of worried about Dave Canales' belief in Bryce Young. Yeah. And I think there's some hesitancy like there was early last year with him, where he's just not letting this dude play freely and let him cook, as the young folks would say.
Why did yeah, I hear you.
So there's I hope that's not the case. I really do, because I wanted to see him succeed. And look, at last year it was 36-30. I usually will look at that. So I'm way off. You're right. I should change my score.
Well, that went into OT. That was the Chuba Hubbard 36.
But realistically, it's probably more like 28-17 Arizona. Maybe I'll do that. I'll revise my score there. Hey, they've done that on Fox.
That's fair.
Shows. We're going that 28-17.
All right, 28-17, and I'm 27-22.
So anyway, I hope they prove us both wrong, because we need some tide turning, because after this past week, I was like, man, I'm already kind of over this season,
was
and we're
rough.
only week 1. So.
I'm still in on the season, but you know what? When we did our season predictions, I started thinking to myself too this weekend, Curtis, and I was like, so they lose this game. It was one that I was on the fence about winning or losing. I had them losing this one in Arizona in my predictions when I went through. So I still am not ready to like scrap it. I'm still not like off. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, look, I didn't think this was going to be a terrific football team. I thought the Jalen Coker thing sucked. Now with Turk Wharton, I think that sucks. Like there are things that are difficult to manage right now, but I still think that this team finds their rhythm and puts together some wins. My issue now is, if it's only 5 wins instead of 7,
Yeah,
what do we do? You can't keep winning 5 games, man.
I hear you. Well, let's get into our bet for this week, and this is actually, it is the Arizona Panthers game. We all stuck with that. I know Bryson and Ricky sent me theirs, and I'm like, well, we might as well just stick to the one game. I didn't want to break from the mold.
So we got a same game parlay.
Yeah, same game parlay. Ricky, see, I always feel like I'm at a disadvantage when we do these, because I usually will let these guys pick, and then I just pick up the scraps pretty much.
Pick up
the table scraps.
Listen to
But if I would have seen this bet, the McMillan, before Ricky, I would have like 100 times over put this down. Like, this is a no-brainer. When you sent me this, I'm like, holy shit, the odds are crazy. And
that
this
makes me feel worse now.
No.
I feel like you're giving me the jinx right now.
But take it away. Tell us why you went with McMillan here.
Well, I just think he was really close last week, and I think that he's the focal point of the offense. I think that if this team ends up being down and they have to throw the football, who do you think they funnel the targets to? If they're in the red zone, maybe they don't try a rub concept to Xavier Legette again. Maybe they don't think of that. Maybe they say, hey, let's isolate, get a one-on-one and toss it up to T-Mac, because every time that we've thrown it to him, he at least gets a paw on it and seems like it's really close, right? So I just think that this is the week. I think that when we did his predictions for his rookie production and all of that, at some point he's going to start putting up some touchdowns. I got him getting, 7, 8 touchdowns. He's going to start scoring them. And why not this year, or why not this week? Budda Baker's a terrific player in their secondary. Budda Baker's also about 5'9". If he gets isolated on a deep route against Budda Baker, maybe I like that. Will Johnson had a terrific game, the rookie out of Michigan. I don't necessarily worry so much, though, about any potential shadowing or one-on-one opportunities against a rookie. We saw Tedero McMillan dominate players in college last year. We saw him dominate players in college for 2 years before that. This is a productive big-time receiver at plus 190 odds. It's a tough bet to walk away from. So give me Tedero McMillan to get in there.
Yeah, Bryson went James Conner over 70 rushing yards. Don't blame him at all for this. Carolina's rush defense has to prove us all wrong here. When it comes to, really, I mean, Ricky talked about it, and this, statistically speaking, and dating back to last year, I mean, it's pretty obvious Carolina has struggled in this area, and they seem to still struggle. So
Pickle said they're going to rush over 300 yards on us, man. Pickle, I will throw a fit. I will throw a damn toddler fit.
We all will. I went with Chuba here. I almost did Chuba anytime touchdown, but then I saw Ricky's. I'm like, I don't know if they scored 2 touchdowns.
Oh man. Oh man. You are down bad right now with this team. You don't like anything about this team.
No, I don't. But I do think
you held all that in, by the way. You didn't say any of these like really big doom and glooms. This prediction has really keyed
Ricky,
me into the fact
you
think
the doom and gloom off the top. I was letting you have it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yeah, I think Chuba had a really good game against them last year. I think he had like 150 yards. I know the Saints they had somewhat of success, 100 plus on them this past week. But I do think Carolina's going to try to run the ball more. That's what I'm hoping against this team. And I think it's real possible. I think Chuba, even in this past game, I didn't think they ran much with him, and he still had 50 plus yards in the game. So I think this is pretty attainable for him. And, hopefully he can lead the way and they can get some of these other backs involved, because I do think that'll help this team out too as well. But I think this is a pretty good parlay, honestly, for this week. I know last week, I think Ricky, I didn't check Bryson's. I know I didn't. Penix showed out a little bit against Tampa Bay. Damn him. Um, so I lost that one. But Ricky with the
I hit
Ricky
Ricky Pearsall
Pearsall.
easy.
Yeah, that was he's on my fantasy team, so I was pretty happy about that. He took off.
Had a nice game. He's gonna only get better.
Amen, man. Well, hey, we appreciate everyone who has tuned in to the podcast this evening. And hopefully we can get a W this weekend in Arizona. Carolina's got a great record with them, even on the road against the Cardinals. So let's hope that plays in our favor a little bit here. And hopefully we're talking about some good things next week. So we appreciate everyone tuning in. 700 plus on a Wednesday evening at 11:11. Make a wish.
Let's do this next week and talk about a win. Please, Carolina, I'm begging you.
We are all begging you. Let's look competent. That's what I want. And that's a lot to ask now these days with this team. Just be competent. Make this game competitive, please. All right, y'all. Appreciate you guys. You guys have a good night. And as always, keep pounding.